Welcome to the Oshner Andrew Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio. We are here to break down today's Saints loss to the Commanders. Didn't really feel like the worst loss of the season by any means, but we're going to do that on today's episode of NewOrleans.Football, presented by PJ's Coffee. And if you're in the market for a new car, make sure you check out my guy, Matt Bowers. It is state-of-the-art Ford dealership or one of his other mini dealerships throughout the region. He's got all the cars you want, best customer care, best prices, and everything you need to do to put that big smile on a special someone's face this holiday season. I'm Nick Underhill. Guy in the middle is Mike Triplett. That's B. Thomas on the end. Brandon, what you got for us?
I got our first segment presented by Hard High Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. The player of the game, Spencer Rattler, came in the second half. I can't say anything but made a spark, made some magic, made something happen.
Yeah. I thought you were going to ask a question.
He made something happen. So, what did we learn about him? We saw him those other games, and then he came in today. What have we learned about Spencer Rattler when he came in the second half?
Well, it's eye-opening. I mean, I thought he might be shelved for the rest of the season. I thought all Spencer Rattler talk was going to be theoretical. And it would be, well, we can't really discount him because of those 3 games when he started and the offensive line stunk at the time. But, I thought it was going to be based on, just blind faith. And now we have something to really go by. And this is more impressive than anything he did in the preseason. It's more impressive to me than anything he did in training camp. Nick had a great tweet with about 4 minutes to go in the game saying, can the Saints please make a stop? I need to see a Spencer Rattler 2-minute drive for research purposes. And, man, if he didn't nail that 2-minute drive, I liked his poise and his patience and his confidence, not panicking as the clock tick down, making big throws. He was 5 of 6 on that drive, not including the spike. So even though he only ended up 10 of 21 in this game, which doesn't jump off the page, he admitted there were some missed opportunities on the field goal drives. Just that 2-minute drive alone kind of resurrects all the Spencer Rattler faith and hope and promise that we had earlier this summer.
I mean, let's even forget the 2-minute drive. Just that throw to Valdez-Scantling down the field was unbelievable. I mean, the pocket's collapsing on him. He can't step up. Like that was all arm, and he nailed that. He kind of saw a single high there, put it in the middle of the field. It was kind of it felt like a risky throw. It's one of those throws where if you like the quarterback, it's an amazing throw. If you don't like the quarterback, he kind of got lucky on it. Frankly, I think it was a great throw. And he hit it when he first threw it. I was like, man, I don't know. And then I went back and kind of broke it down, watched the coverage, and I felt really good about that throw. Yeah, 10 of 21 today. Definitely stuff to work on. I don't think that you say this is a player that has arrived, but it's definitely back to feeling really good about his future and his upside and his tools and all that stuff. I mean, look, this is right up there with that first half of his very first start where kind of at halftime I was like, wow, he's really good. This time, though, they had him making throws from the pocket. I kind of feel a little bit better about this one than any of them at this point. And it was adverse situations, down by 17. They can kind of come in and tee off on you a little bit. And he managed to handle it. And the juxtaposition of him to Jake Haener couldn't have been more stark. This difference, like there's a few things here, and we'll get into Haener, but I mean this is the guy. This is the guy that we saw in camp that kind of had everybody excited. And you also saw the downs in camp, which is kind of reflective of what we've seen this season. There have been really, really nice highs. There have been some lows within it. But I think with a player like this that's picked in the 5th round, you kind of look at the highs and you kind of got to think about, what can you do with this? Where can it go? How can it get better? I'm not ready to say don't draft a quarterback, don't look anywhere else, but I am ready to say like this guy has something that's worth looking at. And I would never wish that somebody can't play or they remain injured or anything like that. Yeah. But if he's able to play Monday night in Green Bay, like I'm not mad at it. Like I'm more interested in kind of finding this out than anything. And is it real? Did he learn from the last stint? Like he looked good today. Like not perfect. He looked good. There were things definitely to be excited about within his performance.
Well, composure is almost number one on my list. I guess arm one, composure two. But it's funny. I had one of the worst takes I've had all season when we were all discussing it. Should Rattler come in the second half? And I was like, I thought that would be a disservice to Rattler. I thought coming in, it was 14-0 at the time. It was 17-0 by the time he got in the game because Washington kicked a field goal early in the third quarter. But I was like, all right, Jake Haener has already been sacked 3 times. This team can't run the ball, and now you're going to be down 17-0 and throw Rattler in there. He's just going to be getting pressured relentlessly. How's that going to boost his confidence? How are you going to learn more about him? I was wrong. And he didn't get sacked once. I think that is probably the biggest difference from those early games. He had 2 interceptions, 2 lost fumbles, a ton of sacks in his 3 starts, obviously behind a bad offensive line. He was escaping the pocket maybe too early. This time he stood in the pocket with confidence, composure, poise, and so that was really impressive. Didn't make every throw, but, man, if he didn't look comfortable in there.
And that was one of my big points. The fact that he came in, he wasn't scared. They told him with a little bit to go at before halftime that he was going to get the start coming out. Came out, and he balled, man. He balled. And one thing that's really big is we've now seen all 3 quarterbacks play behind the starting offensive line. So I think him coming out, creating a spark on offense, really getting everybody going across the board. I think he even created a spark for the defense too, because this whole team seemed invigorated coming out in the second half. So I'm really encouraged by that. Even earlier this week when you asked who gives the best chance, I said Spencer Rattler. I kind of stuck with it. And I'm not saying
victory lap now.
Oh no. Well, it's because I wasn't really expecting to see him today, but him coming in those situations just to see what he did, it's pretty impressive for the future.
Yeah, I mean, look, he definitely played better than he did at the end of that last 3-game stretch. Like, he got benched. Like, there were times where he looked, kind of helpless within that. So that's why I want to see the extended period for him. But the thing with Haener that I think we've seen now is that in everyone's always like practice, but like, look, in these practices, like, he really does perform well in practice. He's a very good practice player, but that's kind of become the narrative of him now, in that the rookie year, he looked great all throughout training camp. He gets into the preseason and those games start happening, and it's not what we see in practice. This year, camp looks really good. Gets into the preseason. It's better than it was as a rookie, but it's just kind of all right overall. Then this year, every time he goes into a game, it felt like things were moving too fast for him. Okay, well, maybe that's because he's coming in as a backup. If he has time to prepare, does the narrative change? Okay, he comes in the game as a starter. Everything's still happening way too fast for him, and he isn't able to slow it down. And it looked kind of, I don't know what the right word is, but it didn't look good. Like, too many sacks. Just kind of felt like he couldn't get anything done back there. And that's kind of the mark that's on him now, and that's not a good mark to have. Like, I don't know how you change it. I still don't disagree with the decision to start him in there. Right. I think if you put him in there, you had to get him out of there, though. Like, you could not roll that dude back out there in the third quarter. That's forget a disservice to Spencer Rattler. That's a disservice to the whole entire organization. Like, you cannot keep going like that. I give Rizzy credit for taking him out of there. We're going to get to that in a minute. But, yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with trying to find out if you have something, seeing if it's going to be better than it was with the other guy. I thought that what we saw in that 3-game stretch was going to kind of be what we saw here. It absolutely wasn't. I mean, he played great, kind of changed the narrative, as Mike said. So, yeah, I mean, it just kind of played out and went. But I think this is kind of, I'm not closing the door on anyone, but I think there's significant separation between the two players at this point.
For sure. You got anything else on this
one?
Well,
Rattler, I was going to point out on that throw to MVS that you were talking about and how he kind of let the pressure come in. He admitted he probably hitched one too many times. He said it opened up quickly. It was exactly what they were looking for. It was exactly the look they were hoping to get when they called that play. And he knew he had it early, and he probably should have thrown it a tad sooner, maybe make it look a little cleaner, but I think he wowed us more by making it more dramatic.
Either way, I mean, it was an amazing throw. Yeah, I mean, he put it in there, though. And look, it's not all going to be perfect. Nothing about his performance was perfect. He's 10 of 21. There's 11 passes that could have been better, and a couple of the ones I hit could have been better. There was, a pass that he connected that was behind a guy, short. I think it was the Pettis, maybe was behind him, still got caught. That one there. He's saying he could have cleaned it up. So, like, look, he looked. He could move the ball, like he could play. Like, the stage wasn't too big for him. Like, he was able to go out there and play. And the juxtaposition, I think, just made it kind of crazy. The juxtaposition makes 10 of 21 probably look significantly better. But look, he brought him back with a lot of help from Kendra Miller. Like, it was a good start for him. It kind of brings a little bit of wind back into his sails. And if this is the last time we see him and Carr comes back next week, I mean, fine. That's it's a good place to kind of end it. It kind of puts a little bit of excitement back in him. I think that's good for him. If that's what we see from him moving forward on Carr, I'm trying to find the text here. And again, this person did not look at Derek Carr, did not see him, did not evaluate him, is not his doctor. But based on the type of cast, he said it's probably a metacarpal shaft fracture. If it was only the fourth and fifth fingers immobilized like that, it would be a boxer's fracture. But with all of them in that position, it's probably a shaft fracture. I looked that up. Usually 3 to 4 weeks of recovery on an injury like that, non-throwing hand. A couple weeks into it. Next week would be probably, they're a week into it. So next week would be 2 non-throwing hand. Maybe you can beat that timeline by a week if that thing's just there to kind of like support and do handoffs. I don't know, but it would be early on that. So
yeah,
I would say iffy. I thought the fact that they tried to leave the door open all week this week was a little disingenuous and just straight up fake. But you do what you got to do for gamesmanship.
Yeah, definitely, and I think Rizzy gave us some added information there too when he let it slip that it's the hand/wrist area, which also lets you know that it's the base or the shaft of the metacarpal and not up in the fingers. I don't know that necessarily means he'll be out longer or shorter, but I think it's pretty a lot of signs pointing to that being where the fracture is on the hand. But obviously a lot of signs pointing to Derek Carr is probably the one who wants, every door still open. Can I play? Can I play? Especially when the Raiders come to town in a couple weeks. And maybe they'll leave those doors open for him, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll put him back out there sooner than they want to either.
I got a take on that, but it's in the Martin's question of the day. So at the end of the show,
one more question though. The title of this show is "Can Spencer Rattler be the Saints' future QB?" You hinted at it, Nick. We don't know enough to know that. We don't know enough to say don't draft another one. But what if he doesn't start another game? You couldn't go in with him as the projected starter if he doesn't start another game. But is it him and veteran now for you guys?
Honestly, man, at this point, I'd be ready to ride or die with him next year, get rid of Carr. And it's not because of how he played. I'm just willing to fail miserably. Get him and Andy Dalton. And
that's what I mean. If not him and Carr, him and Mason Rudolph.
Veteran,
yeah.
Someone that's $10 million. Okay, maybe you strike gold with Sam Darnold. Maybe you don't. You go in, you hope Rattler beats him out. A Sam Darnold type is what I mean. Not Sam Darnold specifically.
Sam Darnold's going to get paid a lot.
Rattler and Justin Fields, whatever it is, you can get. The problem with Derek Carr isn't that he's the Derek Carr level QB. It's that he's a Derek Carr level QB at $40 million, $33 million, whatever it is. So, yeah,
it would be 40 next year, yeah.
I would be willing to do that. I would be willing to ride or die. And I either strike gold or I'm getting the number 1 pick. I strike gold with the old backup that I'm taking a chance on or the young backup that I'm taking a chance on. I strike gold with Rattler or not, or I strike gold and I get a chance to strike gold in the draft. So, that's where I would be willing to go with it at this point. I'd rather lose games with Rattler than Carr.
No, I agree. And again, we had this conversation a million times. Completely agree with it. I think Carr is slotted where his salary is slotted where he should be. I think he's probably a little underrated, underappreciated. I would rather see this team have Spencer Rattler and a cheap veteran next year, just because of where this team is at.
Let me throw up another hypothetical. What if you're the Saints, or if you're the Saints, or with this, you're Mike Triplett, you're Brandon Thomas. Let me rephrase this. Okay,
I'm Mike.
If you go to Carr and say, hey, we're either, because there's not a lot of openings for quarterbacks. There's not a lot of people that are going to be willing to pay Derek Carr a ton of money if the Saints release him. He has offsets in his contract.
Yep.
He might not get any money at all. He might get $1 million from his next team and $9 million from the Saints.
Yep.
If they went to Carr and they said, hey, you can come back next year, but we're only paying you $20 million, and he says yes, are you agreeable to that as an analyst of the team? Do you feel like that's a worthwhile endeavor?
It's definitely possible. It's definitely possible. That's a tough conversation to have with a guy who just kind of had the same thing happen to him with the Raiders. But, hopefully he can have an open mind about him. If the team realistically says, you see our cap, We're the only team that's over the cap projected for next year, and we're $80 million projected over the cap. We got to save money. We're either going to go out there and we're going to sign Mason Rudolph or Sam Howell, or we'd love for it to be you. Can you do that for a lot cheaper? Otherwise, we're going to have to let you go in free agency. Maybe cooler heads would prevail. I would keep that door open. I'd rather have Derek Carr than Andy Dalton. I would not rather pay Derek Carr 8 times what Andy Dalton's making.
My answer is going to be, you got it?
No, go ahead.
Look, man, you talk all this, I'm a leader, I'm this, I'm that. This the time. This the time. That's what I would do. This the time to show it. Take the cut.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, the thing, like, I would be okay with them doing it because the flip side is you got a shit ton of dead money and no quarterback, and you got to go pay another one, and then your net overall in that is like. So I would be willing to take the, at $20 million, like it's more palatable,
but you save $20 million. That's a big savings.
Right.
I like the idea of maybe potentially striking gold somewhere though. Like, you're taking gold off the table if you do that. So I don't know how I would feel about it, but if, the options are a ton of dead money, I don't know. I really don't know which way to go with it. It's just, it feels like a bad situation kind of all the way around, no matter what you do. Even if you cut them, like you're still not showing up with a better quarterback, but is down the way up. It might not be that either, but at some point, if you're just riding with Derek, that down's coming anyhow. So, like, I'm just ready to see them take the medicine and just get on the other side of it.
Yep.
Nick, you previewed it a little bit earlier, but let's get into our next segment presented by Shop Insurance, the AR agency. Is Darren Rizzi doing anything to improve his candidacy going forward? He saw the ship sinking for a little while, and he pulled Jake Haener and put Spencer Rattler in. So has he done anything to increase his chances of getting this head coaching job long term?
It's an interesting kind of thought process here on this. Last week I think I was really down on him. This week I feel really up on him. So it kind of feels like, let me see how everything kind of plays out. I just didn't think they did a good job against the Giants. It felt like a loss, and this loss felt like a win. I'll say this though, like as I previously mentioned, I don't disagree with the decision to start Haener, and I think a lot of coaches are afraid to admit a mistake, and I think they kind of stick with what they're doing because they don't want to make a public declaration that they did something wrong. And ideally, you would have preferred to see Darren Rizzi just know that Jake Haener wasn't going to be viable in that role and just go straight to Spencer Rattler and know that Spencer Rattler was going to play better than he did in any of the previous 3 games and that it was going to be this. And you could see all that in practice, but they didn't. And that happens. And not every decision you make as a coach is going to be perfect. I kind of like that it played out with this though, because it allowed us to kind of see his DNA a little bit. And it's one thing to kind of, talk about it, show it, versus showing it. I think he kind of showed what was in his DNA today, though, is that he has said, like, there's a way to win every game. It's my job to try to find it. Today I think he did what he had to do to try to find it at the risk of, saying, hey, I screwed up, and you're telling Mickey Loomis and Dennis Alshaw and Gail Benson and everybody, hey, I made the wrong decision to start the game. B, I'm going to Rattler. That's not an easy decision to make, though, because if Rattler falters, then now you've just screwed up everything. And now it's all of a sudden, well, if you would have prepared Rattler, maybe he would have played better, and it would have been that. So it becomes a colossal just shit show if that goes sideways, and you're at risk of that as the interim coach. Like, you're kind of putting everything on the line, making that decision by A, first admitting it, and B, possibly making it worse. But C, that's the only way out of the mess. And he was willing to kind of risk his own stature for the good of the team, putting that above his own interest, kind of, because you could just go out with it and kind of just have one mistake and not risk a bigger mistake. And then next week you prepare Rattler and you start him. You know what I mean? But like, he was willing to kind of risk it all to try to find a way to win this game. And kind of seeing that, I do give him credit for that. That doesn't mean I'm hiring him. I do think that today he made his candidacy stronger, but that doesn't mean that a stronger candidacy or a strong resume, if you were starting the coaching search today, I would say that his resume is kind of pretty strong. But that doesn't mean you hire him. You don't run a process. I still think that I need to be convinced a little bit more overall. I'm not going there with him at this point, but I think that today was a good day for him, and I think he kind of showed a little bit of something. And I'm for that. Like I liked what we saw today.
It's funny. We got this graphic on the bottom of the screen that says Rizzy is 3-2 as an interim coach, and I was halfway through a text saying, "Oh, you need to correct that. He's actually 2-3," because I was so sure this was their third straight loss, and then I remembered, oh yeah, they actually beat the Giants last week. I'm exactly like you, and that's the problem. Is their second half against the Rams was lousy. Their entire game against the Giants was lousy, and the first half of this game was horrible. And if Terry McLaurin catches one of the 3 times he was wide open down the field, they don't even get this chance to come back, and they lose this one by double digits. And we're talking about a 3-game losing streak. So does that all get, washed under by what we see in that nice rally where they almost won the game? Part of me thinks yes. I do agree with you. You got to learn about somebody in a situation. He was faced with a moment of test, and he passed the test. He did everything right. He again showed this team can be down 17-0 and benching their quarterback, and they can still come back and fight like that. So those are moments where you learn about somebody, and it does add to the aura around Darren Rizzi. There's absolutely an aura. I mean, even national writers who cover the NFL said, I saw one that got retweeted that said, if he doesn't get the job, he should jump to the top of the list of special teams coordinator / assistant head coach because of the way he manages games. I think that was Connor Orr, maybe, if I want to give credit, but I think I saw Albert Breer tweeting nice things about it. Like, national people are noticing decisions he makes, energy he brings. That stuff's real. He has improved his. Me and B were talking about it earlier this week. Whatever his Madden, or me and Kevin were talking about it on the members only, I think. Whatever his Madden rating was before, he's gotten noticed now, and they've had to go in and give him a new rating. I don't know if that'll be enough for him to be chosen as the head coach, but he's improving the views of him, no question about it.
Look, I mean, I think one thing that we got to say, though, too, like, and I'm not giving it, like, the Giants game needed to be way better. The second half against the Rams needed to be better, all that stuff. But, like, the roster kind of sucks, let's just be honest. Like, it's probably, like, as it stands right now with all the injuries and everything, it's probably like a 3-4 win roster with a $40 million quarterback that has led them to, a win or two that maybe they shouldn't have gotten. But yeah, I mean, led is a strong word, but I mean, if it's just kind of, they aren't that good right now. Like, there's a lot of injured players, so I don't know what the expectation reasonably should be. I think they, underperformed last week, and I think they significantly overexceeded it in the second half of this game. Yeah,
one thing that kind of just summing it up, he wasn't afraid to pull the ripcord. He wasn't afraid to, when he jumped out the plane, like, oh, man, I need my parachute, and then pull it. And then he's not in the business of self-sabotage. He's not in the business of saying, well, I made this decision. Let's stand on this decision, whatever happens. He was like, nah, a change needs to be made. Come in here, make the change. But also, you talk about the drop touchdowns and all that stuff like that. The Commanders are currently the 7th seed. Boy, they on fraud watch. Because it always kind of seemed like the Saints in the second half were in that game with non-starters. Next week, we'll have to see if Rizzy could keep it up because they got to play the 6th seed in Green Bay, who has 9 wins. So very interested to see what happens, but I really do like that Rizzy wasn't scared to say, all right, we need a change, and then make that change immediately when he had to see it.
What's interesting, I was actually talking to a Washington reporter. It seems like they've got that 7th seed locked up, but they host the Falcons in a couple of weeks, so the Falcons can get frisky if they want to do what the Saints couldn't.
Ochsner Hospital for Orthopedics and Sports Medicine on Clearview Parkway is celebrating 5 years of exceptional achievements. The hospital's integrated team has successfully performed over 20,000 surgeries using the latest in cutting-edge technology. With nationally recognized services and impactful partnerships, they continue to lead the advancement of orthopedic and sports medicine care in our region.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number 1 grocery store
in Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. NewOrleans.Football is proudly sponsored by Urban South Brewery, the makers of Paradise Park Lager. I love supporting local breweries, and when looking for a refreshing, easy drinking beer, I always recommend Paradise Park. In fact, I think it might be the best game day beer out there. If you want something a little lighter, try Paradise Light. It's everything I love about Paradise Park with just 96 calories and 2.6 carbs. And if you're looking for a family-friendly place to watch the game, I'd recommend Urban South's Tap Room in the Lower Garden District. They've got 15 TVs, 30 unique beers on tap, and mouth-watering urban smash burgers. The whole family will want to make Urban South their new living room, because at Urban South, they take laid back seriously. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Shaubert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. At Shaubert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Shaubert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Shaubert. That's 504-326-6526. Shaubert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com.
Welcome into the Oxner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio here in the Superdome. Let's get into our next segment presented by Urban South. Cam Jordan, man that we thought was on his way, to the back half of his career, and now from the last couple games, it seems like, he's really turning around. So let's do a heat check. Are you buying the Cam Jordan resurgence?
To an extent, yeah, obviously. I mean, how resurgent is resurgent? We just had the conversation earlier this week. Who's the best defensive lineman on the team right now? And none of us were about to say Cam Jordan is the best defensive lineman on the team or anything. But he was down to playing 10 snaps in Dennis Allen's last game, and now he's a valued, important member who's making decent plays here and there. I mean, nothing's going to turn back the clock and turn back time. But more and more, 2-sack game, obviously, in a game where they're handing them out to everybody. But, it sure seemed like how could they bring him back next year and just play this bit role on the team when he's due like $12 million? Yeah. I think he's going to have to take a pay cut no matter what. But, I see him being on this team next year if they can work that out a lot more than we did 4 or 5 pre-Rizzy.
Yeah. He had 6.
5 pressures, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss, 2 quarterback hits, a forced incompletion. I mean, that's a legitimate performance, man. Like there's no qualifiers on that. Like that's a good game by any standards against an extremely mobile quarterback. So yeah, look, he's playing better than he did. So I think the upside's there. I think he's happy. I think being happy is a big part of this. I think Cam isn't afraid of speaking his mind today. I seen a quote about him saying, basically they asked him like, hey, I thought you were dead. And he's like, if you thought I was dead, that was coming from the top. That ain't for me. That maybe people up top were telling you that, but I've been the same the whole time. So like he knows he ain't, he knows this is probably the last contract. You don't give a damn. Like he's saying what he thinks. He's wasn't happy with how things went, obviously. And he's on a prove him wrong tour. And I think he's doing it right now.
Speaking of quotes that turned ahead, I'm trying to find the exact one while we're talking here. I was asking, you know how many years we've seen them struggle against mobile quarterbacks, but they do that sit back in the shell and not attack and just don't screw up and don't let the guy go. And obviously they were letting him go after the quarterback. And he basically said, that's Brian Young. He trusts us to make plays. Here's what he said. Since he took over, you can see the night and day. You know, when you have a guy who's a D-line coach, that X and O's guy, versus a guy who's actually played the game and knows how to be a D-lineman for 30-plus years, you can see the effects. So, I mean, he took a direct shot at previous coaching versus letting them go play. So it's not only the switch to him getting more playing time, the coaching, you know, Rizzy from the top, Brian Young at that position group. He's happy with a lot of things going on right now.
You talk about him corralling the young mobile quarterback. Man, he took JD to Suplex City. He said, come here, young buck, and did a Brock Lesnar on him. And I really do think that that's indicative of kind of how just the identity of the defensive line has turned around as a whole since BY moved up to becoming the position coach, because they just seem to be playing with more enthusiasm, more or less. We talked about Chase Young kind of peaking at the right time last show, and then just today, everybody got a chance to eat. So I think that was pretty good to see for that position group. Let's move on to the next segment presented by Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, the 3 up and the 3 down. Nick, who do you have up first?
I'm going to put Carl Granderson in the up column. I thought he had a really solid game today, and he's kind of been quiet for a little bit. So I got him up there. Again, another guy that I thought had about 5 pressures. He got himself a sack. He looked good today, and he's kind of someone that I was thinking, you know, stuff had quieted down a little bit for him. There's been a lot of pressure, but the sack production wasn't there. I thought this was a good, important game for him.
Yeah, he look, a lot of people got in on it. Chase Young had 2 sacks. Cameron Jordan had 2 sacks, but I think Carl Granderson had the biggest climb to make. Yeah. He had become the quietest guy in that group who hadn't had a big moment in a while. So if the point of whose stock went up, you know, he had the farthest climb. But I'll put, let's just keep talking about every defensive lineman. I'm going to put Chase Young on there because stock up. How about asking price up? I mean, last week he had the 10 pressures that were a career high, got a lot of attention for that. Now he goes against his former team and gets 2 sacks. He's up to 5.5 in the season. If you can climb that number up again. Whether or not you're happy with watching every single snap that you've seen this year, some on, some off, kind of matches what his career reputation was. If he's going to keep finishing the way he's played in the last 2 weeks, I mean, you're like going up $1 million a week in average annual salary, I think, in free agency.
I'm going to stick on defense. DeMario Davis, for me personally, he was in the running for the player of the game, but I think, he really is kind of keeping that DeMario versus time thing alive, because he was going out there and he was flying around, man. He led the team in tackles. He had a sack today, so I think DeMario is definitely on the up list.
I'll keep it rolling. I'm going with Kendre Miller. Looked really good running the ball down the stretch. Some of the pass blocking, if he had a reception, a target that he could have caught, but didn't. But he ran the ball well. And the thing I really just do not understand about my biggest beef was with the offensive staff is that, like, they just still kind of hate this guy. It seems like I don't understand how you get to the last series of the game and he's got like 13 snaps and 5 carries. Like he ended the game on such a high, but like they just don't want to go to him. They weren't running the ball enough overall, even to begin the game. And I know like the possessions were kind of weird or whatever, but they need to commit to getting him involved in a consistent capacity, because it's not just about next year or seeing what you have. Like, he's legitimately one of their best offensive players right now, and there's like a reluctance to get the ball to him, and I don't get it, and that needs to change. Like, it's a hindrance to their success. Like, you have to give him the ball more than you are right now.
Obviously, goes without saying that Rattler and Jordan were in the up this week. We mentioned them before, and I'll just give a secondary up to Foster Moreau. Those are 2 awfully clutch catches for a guy who hasn't gotten a ton of opportunities around here. 4th and 3 conversion with about 17 seconds left, and then with 0 seconds left, the touchdown that almost won the game.
I'll stick on offense. I'll go with MVS. He had a drop from
2,
Jake
I
Haener.
think.
Yeah, he had 2 drops from Jake Haener, but the 2 receptions he had, they made up for it. They made up for it because they got a lot of chunk yards. That was the only 2 receptions he had today, but they were good. And also, I kind of supplement that with Ugo Amadi, kind of, sort of. He had a tip pass and he had a sack. Wasn't really expecting that from him, so he's going in my up category. Let's roll on to the downs. Nick, who you got?
I think Alontae Taylor is at the top of my list. I thought it was a kind of a rough game for him, and the coverage wasn't what it should have been. There was a play at the end of the game where, well, not the end of the game, but near the end of the game where he got beat up the sideline, but the throw just wasn't there. It would have been a walk-in touchdown. It was a weird play. Something busted with the coverage. I don't even know if that's really on him, because on the other side of the field, Kool-Aid played it the same way. There were 2 guys streaking up there, going the same way, just running straight down the field. I think maybe something with the seam routes maybe kind of like made the safeties bite and just kind of broke the coverage, and they were in some type of zone, I believe. But that one aside, I mean, there were just a few too many plays where it felt like he was trailing in ways that he shouldn't have been. And granted, this is a really good receiver that he was matched up against a handful of times in McLaurin, but you gotta be a little bit more like, I don't know, consistent than that if you're gonna be the guy next season. So I didn't think it was his best game. I thought last week was a much better game for him, and I thought this week wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, the secondary as a whole could probably go in here. McLaurin had 7 for 73 and 2 touchdowns. One of those was against Kool-Aid. Was the other one against Ugo, or was it the deep pass down the middle that would have been against Ugo and he just couldn't quite catch it? Then there was the one Nick talked about. I mean, they ended up making enough stops to make this a close game, holding them to 20 points. But I think Washington did them a favor. This very easily could have been like 27 to something or 34 to something if Daniels and McLaurin exploit those opportunities they gave them to get, again, all the way behind the defense for like 50 yard. Like they have not figured out how to stop doing that this year.
For sure. I have Jake Haener. Jake Haener is one of my downs because, he had the entire week to prepare, came in, the lights were pretty bright on him, and he just couldn't handle it. So Jake Haener is definitely going to be on the down list for me.
Throw Juwan Johnson on there. I don't think great game for him. Felt like a pass that could have probably been caught at the end. It's a tough play, but play you got to make. Hit you in the hands. I think he threw it way too hard, but I don't know. Like, it's just I didn't feel like it was a great game for him.
Yeah, I didn't have any other obvious down. I mean, I do have one. The offensive line, it got better in the second half with Rattler.
Yeah.
They all owe Jake Haener some kind of an apology card. He got 20 snaps to decide the fate of his career, and they didn't give him much time to throw in any of them. They didn't run the ball for him.
Oh, man, I know. I got to disagree with you on this. Like, his drops were way too deep. Like, he was putting himself in trouble. I gotta disagree on that. That was not – that felt more on the quarterback than the offensive line to me.
Yeah, I mean, I can't appreciate the subtlety from the naked eye watching that game, so I apologize if that's not true, but, I mean – the entire offense was completely useless in the first half. So if that's on Haener, then he gets in the down twice.
Matt, hold on. Going back to the ups, we would be remiss to not mention Cedric Wilson, a guy who's cold as a receiver, but coming in. And when I say cold, I mean cold in terms of like not cold and like, oh man, he cold. You got to distinguish the difference. But he came, he caught the pass. He 1 for 1. He's 1 for 1 with that. So I think that, we can't just pass up on that. You got somebody else for the down, Nick?
No.
Okay.
I'll sneak one more up in because Blake Grupe's been in the down a few more weeks. Couple clutch field goals gave him a real chance to win, 41-51. Down the Commanders kicker. Anybody who kicks against the Saints is down.
Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. Services include AC and heating, service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000. There's always that one person on your holiday shopping list that's just impossible to find the right gift for. They have everything they want, and there's nothing they need. So what do? This year, head up to Boudreaux's Jewelers on Metairie Road and get that special someone a limited edition Breitling Saints watch. That's right. That's a Breitling watch with the Saints fleur-de-lis right on the face. Only 104 of these were made, so if you're looking for something special, this absolutely meets the mark. Boudreaux's Jewelers has been around since 1933, and they have a great selection of handmade jewelry, watches, and rings. It's the perfect destination for your holiday shopping. Boudreaux's Jewelers at 701 Metairie Road in Metairie. Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and much, much more. They are family owned and operated since 1946 and specialize in wine, spirits, gourmet food, gift baskets, catering, and tasting events. They have many locations, so they're never too far away. You can check them out in Metairie, New Orleans, Mandeville, and Baton Rouge, or if it's more convenient, you can always shop online. Whether you're a wine novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
It's good! The Saints score! Saints score! Score big with Saints Score. Win up to $100,000. Enter the second chance drawings for cool Saints prize packages. Play Saints Score scratch-offs from the lottery.
Hey everyone, with the holidays creeping up faster than your aunt's fruitcake recipe, I've got something way better to share with you. If you want to look sharp for all those festive gatherings and maybe finally win that Best Groomed at the Family Dinner Award, check out the latest masterpiece from Manscaped, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver. Trust me, it's like Rudolph for your face, guiding you to a smooth, irritation-free shave. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code NewOrleans for 20% off and free shipping.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of stepping into your dream home. At Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, we can help make that dream a reality with a team dedicated to you. When you partner with Jefferson Financial, you do so for the life of the loan. Having a single point of contact when questions arise is invaluable. Our experts are here to guide you every step of the way. There's no better time to invest in your future. Apply online at jeffersonfinancial.org. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
Whether you are a local New Orleanian or a fan in town for the game, get your pre- and post-game fired up at Aaron Rose. Local chaos and local love for the black and gold. Wake up and live with daily drink specials, mimosas, screwdrivers, Bloody Marys, and hot or frozen Irish coffees, all just $3 or $4 between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Aaron Rose, half a block from Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, 811 Conti Street.
Here at the Queen Casino, indulgence knows no bounds. Prepare your taste buds for an extraordinary culinary journey. Start your day at Capital Coffee. Craving something different? 3 Walks Noodle Bar offers a tantalizing selection of Asian delights. At 1717 Kitchen and Cocktails, savor American cuisine with a twist. Or ascend to the loft for an elevated experience. Enjoy artesian grazing boards and exquisite craft cocktails. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
Welcome back into the Oshner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute podcast studio here in the Superdome. It is now time for our Martin Wine and Spirits question of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrels like bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's so much more than just wine. Today's question is, how does Darren Rizzi handle the QB situation if Carr is cleared to play?
You promised an answer to this.
Yeah, I think it depends, right? I mean, it depends on if he has another game, like say if he starts against the Packers and he looks great, I think the decision should be taken out of his hands. Like someone should tell him, like, hey, you got to keep playing this guy. Like we got to see how this goes. Like this is like if he plays great, leads him to a win or something. I think you have to. I think you have to continue to play him regardless, and you got to just kind of make your decision right there. Okay, we're moving on, and we're going to see what this is going forward. I don't know that they would have the courage to do that as an organization, though. I just don't. I don't know that they would, but I would hope they would if it plays out like that. You know, for Rizzi, I think that he would. I don't know. Look, I don't want to put this on him because like we just seen him make other decisions, but I don't know that he would chase the upside or if he would just go to the more what it is commodity with Carr where you can kind of baseline it and what your floor is going to kind of be with it, and do you go with that because it's safer. Everything we've seen with him though has shown us that he doesn't do the safe thing. So I don't know. Like it'd be interesting to kind of see in that situation. But if you get another good game from him, I think there needs to be a directive of like, this is what we're doing. You're going to play him, and that's it. And that's how I would handle it if I was a GM. If I saw it again against the Packers, I think that's the way somebody has to say something, right?
But the specific question is, what if Carr is cleared to play this week? Do you tell Carr he has to wait because you want to see Rattler?
Well, no, I don't think you can do that this quick.
Yeah.
I don't think they.
So if Carr is cleared to play this week, Carr plays?
Yeah, I think Carr will go back in the game. Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be the toughest thing. I mean, Carr wants to get back. I mean, that's why he hasn't gone on IR. That's why he's taken the non-surgical route with his hand. He's got this history of, I come back from injuries. He's got a proven track record of it. He always tries to come back quick. He's going to want to come back from this injury, and he's going to ask to play, even if they're eliminated. And they are not eliminated right now. If Tampa Bay wins at Dallas next Sunday night, they'll be eliminated before this game even kicks off. So I wonder if something changes in this. All we care about is winning. If they are officially eliminated from the playoffs, do they stop saying all we care about is winning? Do they want to give Rattler a look? I think at that point they should want that, but Derek Carr is going to want to play. Derek Carr gets cleared. He's going to be upset if they don't let him play. So that is going to be a very difficult choice for Darren Rizzi to make. But, yeah, I would like to see Spencer Rattler play more games this year, at least one full game starting 1 week. I'd like to see that. I would. I think it's important for this team to see it.
I would prefer seeing it. I think they should leave him in there. I just don't think if he's cleared to play by Monday, I think he plays on Monday. It's just kind of I just don't know that you bench him over 10 of 21. I think you need to see it again before you make that decision.
Yeah.
Fair point. That'll do it for this edition of NewOrleans.Football. For those who aren't subscribed, make sure you subscribe, lock in, so you can have access to the live blog during the games, so you can have access to all the exclusive articles that Nick and Mike write throughout the week. Overtime is next. Catch you next time.